Good afternoon and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint podcast number 296, going back in time a little bit there, 296, recorded live Monday, June 13th, 2016. I am your host, Todd Klindt. I'll be here for the rest of the afternoon with you, answering your questions, providing advice, and doing all those fun things. While I'm here, certainly I want your rapt attention, but if you're at a computer and you can open up a browser, go ahead and go to sharepoint.rackspace.com, find out about all the great things that Rackspace is doing around SharePoint 2016, all those crazy things, and then also go to rackspace.com/Microsoft, because we're not just a one-trick pony. We do Azure, we do Office 365, we do Exchange, we do SQL. I'm trying to get a Bob practice going. That's kind of the next thing. I've got a lot of ideas, some good, some not so good. But you can find out about all that stuff at rackspace.com/Microsoft. Okay, for our production notes, in my ever-present quest to make this podcast easier for you guys, easier to consume, higher quality, and the least amount of work possible for me, I implemented a new thing last week that I want to tell you about. It's one of my favorite services that I've been using for a little over a year now, called If This Then That, or IFTTT. And what I've done is I have set up an IFTTT recipe that when I blog a blog post that has the word podcast in it, IFTTT goes ahead and tweets that. So one of the things that I had to do manually, I've got a checklist I've got a template in OneNote for every episode, and it's got a checklist of all these things that I have to do. And this is one thing I had to do. I had to blog the podcast, I had to tweet the podcast, and now I can use IFTTT to do all that for me. I'm hoping to automate myself completely out of this, and then I can have my Monday afternoons back. I got my Monday nights back. Now just my Monday afternoons is the next thing. So I bring that up, number one, because if you haven't used If This Then That, check it out. It's got some amazing different things you can do. I use it for a bunch of other stuff. But also when you see these tweets coming out, the link now shows up as an IFTTT.com link. Don't freak out. I'm not trying to forward you into some Nigerian scam or anything like that. It's just how IFTTT does its things. But IFTTT has recipes that bolt into all kinds of Microsoft products, Google, YouTube, TweetDeck, all those kind of things. I've got one for my Fitbit that every time I weigh myself in the morning when I put it into Fitbit, it drops it into a spreadsheet in Google Drive. I've got all kinds of things. So if you like to play with some of those things, IFTTT is a good way to go. Also, I mentioned last week I was going to start getting this on some other platforms, Google Play, IT Unity. I forgot to email last week's podcast to the IT Unity folks, so I need to do that today. I realized that about 45 minutes ago, and I need to send that to them. But hopefully I'll be getting that out there on itunity.com, getting some more exposure. As always, if you have any platforms you want me to put this on, something that'd be easier for you to consume, let me know. You can hit me up at Todd Klindt or email me at todd.klindt@rackspace.com. On to our topics for this afternoon. Now, those of you faithful listeners who've been following along know the last month has been pretty tough for me. I've had a number of things happen. My IRC server crashed, the one I was using from Ars Technica, and as far as I know is still not back. So, Monday afternoon-ish, that crash happened, and we had to scramble and get everything set up in Slack, and that's still not completely ironed out, but we're getting there. So that happened. My blog server crashed, and so I had to scramble and get that all rebuilt again. I had a server at home that crashed. It's been a rough month for me. I've gotten a lot of bad news, and I've persevered. I've soldiered on. I'm that kind of guy. But today I got some news that, man, it's always something, and I'm just not sure how much more of this I can take. But I got some bad news, and I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off, and I'm just going to tell you about it. And I can't get there we go. So the bad news that I got is that apparently Shane's going to be crashing SPTechCon and likely stealing thunder at my sessions. Shane, would you like to say a few words to the poor people?
Poor people. It's funny to hear the way you position this stuff. I mean, you've called my house once a day for about a year now saying, hey, I would need you back at SPTechCon. You got those fine folks at Make-A-Wish Foundation to ask me to come and present with you. all the begging and pleading, and then you pretend like you didn't miss me. I just don't even understand.
Well, I will admit that I have had many wishes about you, Shane. Most of them involve some sort of mutilation on your part, pain, suffering, things like that. I don't know. So those of you that have gone to my sessions over the last year or so, without the albatross of Shane hanging from my neck, I feel like the quality has gone up, and I mean, just the sheer happiness in the room, and so now I find out that I don't have to put up with you again in Boston.
I know. I mean, SPTechCon will just never be the same again, right? They're going to get the Shane and Todd show back. I hear that they're just foaming at the mouth over there, waiting for us.
Yeah, so the funny thing about this is Shane and I started talking about this late this afternoon, and emailed the folks at BZ Media, and David Rubenstein and Caroline they love pitting us against each other. So there's this long email thread of them poking one of us to get us to lash out at the other one. I think they like it when we fight. I think they don't like the harmony.
Yeah, I think it's good for business, right? It's the more violence they can know their ships, the better they are.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to our favorite steak places right there, right? So hopefully we'll find out again.
God, yeah. What is it? Is it a McCormick and Schmidt's, or what is it right around the corner there?
I don't remember what it was. Whatever it was fabulous. We will be definitely returning there Monday nights.
Yeah, so for those of you that haven't heard the story about this, Shane and I, it's by the Sheraton there that the SPTechCon is at, and it's right around the corner. And somebody will look it up. I can't remember what it is, but we were there with a customer. God, I don't know, 8 years ago, something like that. And we're schmoozing and we're talking and all that. And we knew these guys; these are great guys. And both of our steaks show up, and we got like Delmonico steaks or something like that. I don't know. We weren't paying, so it was like whatever the most expensive thing is, we'll take two. And we both kind of bit into our steaks at the same time, and I just kind of looked across the table at Shane as I was wetting myself in my seat because of how awesome this steak was, and he had the same look on his face, just like a single tear coming out. I've had many steaks between then and now, and I can't think of another one that moved me the way that steak moved me.
It was amazing, right? Because it was a ribeye Delmonico, something with a lot of marbling, aka fat, right? Gives it some good flavor. But it had like this melty quality, like a fillet, right? You just kind of put it in and it's like dissolved in. Like, yep. I need a moment now.
Yeah. So in the chat room, Lori's saying that she talked to us right after that. It was all we could talk about. I believe it. It was, oh goodness, that was a good steak. So we'll have to find some time to visit that place again.
Yeah, but yeah, it should be fun getting to run around SPTechCon. I get to see Lori. I owe her 5 or 20 hugs, I think, from all the crap she's put up over the last couple of years for me, and it's exciting just to get back and see my friends.
Yeah. So there's so in the chat room here, folks have asked if we're going to do a lightning talk. So Lori asked, is Shane going to take over the lightning talks? That has already been discussed in our emails as well. So there are certainly plans for that. Yeah.
I will point out that the BZ Media folks immediately responded and said, Shane, will you please do the lightning talk?
That is not how I remember that email thread whatsoever.
I screen printed if you like.
As a matter of fact, and I may have deleted it, but David, the guy that runs the thing, the guy who knows all and sees everything, sent an email that said, and I'm paraphrasing because I've since deleted and shift deleted, but he said, never have I gotten an evaluation that said we need more Shane. Oftentimes, I've gotten evaluations that say we need more Todd, and that's controlling for any that my mom would have filled out. So I think we'll let them speak for themselves.
Well, I mean, if I would carry people's bags around and go get them coffee, they'd probably ask for more Shane too. But he's not a good servant.
You think that's what it is, to buying people M&Ms and carrying their stuff out of their car, all that kind of stuff, writing them notes for their bosses.
I think that's got to be it. It is not you're talking.
And that's just a little extra bit that I put out there that I care enough. That's the difference between you and me.
Mm-hmm. I thought you did it for the tips you told me. You're trying to, afford your kids' college or something as you're trying to get the dollars.
Well, that's, that way I can figure out who's driving which rental car so I know where it's safe to sleep and all that if I can't find a room. Because I always forget to do the thing for the rooms and all that. So it'll be good. I assume we're going to do a lightning talk. I hadn't signed up for any of that yet, but I assume we're doing that. I'm doing 2 sessions. Now, you might say to yourselves, Shane hasn't been doing the Office 365 stuff or the SharePoint stuff for a while. he may not be an asset in these talks. And I agree with you. I would say that is a valid concern. But then I would remind you that Shane never really was much of an asset to any of my talks, and so I don't know that we'll notice any difference, honestly.
I'm just the good-looking one. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know that that's the case. Yeah, the lighting might be bad in your room. Could you make it a little darker in there? That might help your case a little bit.
Hey, I can't look at it. I mean, look at that face here. Would you shave 2 months ago? I mean, you kind of got this half little shadow going on there. So
I thought it made me look kind of sexy. Is that not? Is that
makes
not
you look something?
makes me look like a 13-year-old trying to grow a mustache. But sadly, at 13, I couldn't grow this or anything for that matter.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be at SPTechCon, your sessions will be destroyed by Shane. But I'm still doing the same ones on Wednesday. When we get to the Shameless self-promotion at the end, we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So
well, before we transition off, or before we transition to the next topic, you're talking about IFTTT.
Yes.
I got it right that time. Yay. I always struggle with that. It's too many T's for me.
We're so proud of you remembering all 3 of those T's.
Why didn't you have to go IFTTT? But no, I did. So one of the tricks that I've been using for it, in this whole growth hacking garbage I've been working on, is one of the recipes out there you can go and build is a recipe to follow people who tweet about certain topics, so with certain hashtags and things like that, and then automatically add them to a list on your account. So then that way they see it show up in their feed, right? Hey, Todd Klindt added me to this list. And so in your case, they're like, well, crap, block. But for a lot of us, they're like, oh, you have compelling content, and then they will follow you or add you to a list. So it's kind of a good way to grow your Twitter following without actually having to do any work, which is really what we're all looking for is, lazy ways to get more Twitter followers.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a bunch. I use a bunch of those. So I've got obviously the one that I talked about that does the tweeting. I've got an Amazon Echo.
Yep.
Alexa, Simon says Todd is cool. So I've got an Amazon Echo, and I've got some little Wemo home automation things that I can control with the Echo, but then those also do IFTTT stuff. So I've got some lights that turn on at 7:30 in the morning before I come to work and shut off at 5:30 at night when I leave. And that's all done with IFTTT, if time equals blah. Another cool thing that I don't have set up because the email address is wrong, excuse me, is I've got the MyQ stuff with my garage door opener, and if you hook that up to if you have the email address for that hooked up to Gmail, IFTTT can read your Gmail, and if the time is after 10 o'clock and it hasn't seen a door closed message, it will close your garage door for you every night. Nice. So I mean, there's just all kinds of great things like that. So I remember, so obviously IFTTT's been out forever. I remember Laura started using it a while back, and she had something going on where, like, if somebody would tweet her name, a light in her house would flash or something. So I can only imagine that thing's going off like a damn strobe light. But I could never find anything cool that I wanted to do with it, so I never really got into it. But I've got some stuff now, and it's free service, so it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I wonder what their monetization plan is. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they make it up in volume. I don't know. So and this is what happens, folks. Anytime Shane and I get into a room, the topics, whatever. Are you watching Silicon Valley on HBO?
Of course.
Of course, right. So anybody who's in the tech field, and I feel sometimes like there are cameras and microphones in my office with that. And over the weekend, I think the Washington Post had an article about all the stuff they do to bring real tech people in to help them write for that show. Like, they've got one of Twitter's co-founders as a technical advisor on the show, and he's actually, like, giving them jokes and all these kind of things. And there was one really great story. So TJ Miller, the guy that plays oh my God, the guy that owns the house, his name is escaped. He was also in Deadpool, great movie, by the way. But there was some kind of industry thing where he was standing next to Elon Musk, and he didn't know who Musk was. And of course, Musk's just not used to that. So Musk comes over to TJ Miller thinking it's a big deal, and Musk said something like, don't you want to hear my opinion on what you should do in the show? And Miller's like, no. What do you have to offer me? Because he just think he's some guy up the street. And then some woman comes over with a camera, and Musk assumes it's to take a picture of her and him together. So he's kind of standing there, and Miller's like, grab the camera. She wants a picture of me and her together. And if you know him, I mean, it's just so awesome that he was, But this article is just great with all these things. So somebody, if you can find it, put it in the Slack channel. But it was a Washington Post thing on Silicon Valley. It is just absolutely hysterical.
Yeah, well, that's my non-tech friends, right? I've had to explain to them that watch the show. I'm like, that's all real. There's nothing on that show that hasn't happened in Silicon Valley.
No, I've been part of those conversations. The whole tabs and spaces thing that was there a couple of weeks ago, we've always heard about that. That is all real stuff, every bit of it.
Yeah, well, and that was, so on that same thread, Silicon Valley, after that's Veep, right? So hopefully you also watch Veep because that's hilarious.
I watched like the first 2 seasons, then they got out of the loop. I think I need to pick it up at like season 3 or something.
Oh, Veep is great. But so Veep was apparently, after the show went the first season, some of the Washington people were like, how did you guys find out that thing happened to us, that we did this stuff? We thought we kind of kept it all under the wraps. They're like, well, we're just making up shit. And they're like, nope, that all really happened here.
Yep.
So HBO's pretty dialed in on what the real world actually has happening and just, showing you how funny it is.
Yeah, so one of my buddies that I went to high school with ended up being a deputy press secretary for George Bush II. And so he worked for Dana Perino and those guys. And he said that was when the West Wing was going on. And he said they absolutely would get calls once in a while saying, we're thinking about running this storyline. Is it true? Is it reasonable? Is it too close to reality? Is it too far-fetched? And he said that was always interesting, seeing how close they got to real things, not realizing that they were getting close to real things.
It just makes you a little more scared for the world, but...
Yep. So, yeah, if you've got HBO, go out and watch Silicon Valley. Season 3 is kind of wrapping up now, or Season 4, I forget. Great watch. And if you don't have it, I think you can get like the HBO Now or HBO Go or whatever. You can get a trial for that and binge watch Silicon Valley. And then if you have time, maybe that other show, Game of Thrones, if you're looking for something to watch.
I am 2 episodes. No, I am 1 last week episode behind. No, I'm 2 behind now. Ugh! Makes me sad.
So, and we won't spoil Game of Thrones for anybody, but I just really love the title of the next episode. So the last 2 have been kind of building up. Game of Thrones, they like to do this thing where like the penultimate episode of the season is the big one. So I think last season it was the big ambush north of the wall or whatever. But the title of this coming Sunday's episode is called Battle of the Bastards. And there has not been a better titled episode of Game of Thrones in the history of the show. Battle of the Bastards. I love it. It'll be epic, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, that show is it's pretty amazing. Kudos to them. My only complaint has been this whole, right, they've kind of cleaned it up now, but when Little King didn't go and get his wife out of, I would have marched in there and just nuked that place from the ferry or the Sparrow or whatever the hell he called himself. There'd been no way. Like, my woman is in there and I have an entire army. I think we're going to do something about that.
Yep. Now, so sometime you and I should chat offline because we're boring the crap. So there's a person in the chat room, Shane. I assume it's a very large rock that he lives under, but he's never seen Game of Thrones. I feel like we can't be friends anymore. I feel like I really have to start evaluating somebody who would make those kind of life choices. I don't know.
Yeah, all right. We'll move on and let them go. But man, it's hard to believe.
Yep. All right. So the big news today. So again, this was recorded Monday, June 13th. The big news today, when I woke up,
SPTechCon.
That was the bad news, the horrible, the worst thing to happen all day. Ugh. I kind of feel like can feel it coming up in the back of my throat here. But the craziest news was that Microsoft, and this was like an Onion article. This is crazy. Microsoft agrees to acquire LinkedIn, and that isn't even the ridiculous part of it, for $26 billion in cash. Shane, as I try to catch my breath, and this has been, almost 12 hours I've known about this. What's your take on this? I
am flabbergasted. $26 billion for LinkedIn. I just don't know what the hell they bought. I mean, like everybody else on the internet, right? I'm going to comment on it. I have no idea what I'm saying, but
that's never stopped anybody.
No, not on the internet, right? This show's on the internet. It's super loud. but yeah, I mean, so when I left Rackspace back in, November or whatever, I plugged back into LinkedIn. I updated my profile again, not because I wanted to do anything with it. I just felt like that was the thing you're supposed to do. And so then I tried for a while to write posts and blog on LinkedIn using their published articles. And I mean, as best I can tell, no one consumes anything from LinkedIn. Everyone goes out to LinkedIn and pushes their thing, whether it's their resumes or their content. But I don't see anyone consuming from LinkedIn. So I just don't understand.
Yeah. So LinkedIn's a funny thing. I've always looked at that as a tool that you use to get a job or find employees. I didn't have a LinkedIn profile until Rackspace acquired us because I had never needed to find a job that way. And so it was funny to me that my employer made me do it, which is all that. But yeah, I'm with you. For me, it's just a job finding place, a recruiting thing and all that. And I want to make a comment about something in the chat room. So Jerry Lacanu mentioned that for $26 billion, they could have bought themselves a whole stack of Slacks, 4, 5, 6, or 7, to which I replied, Slack might not be for sale. And then Jerry said, everyone has their price. Here is the thing about that. Everyone does not have their price. And it is easiest to demonstrate is to go back and find the articles about when Apple tried to buy Dropbox. So Steve Jobs brought the guy that founded and owned Dropbox into his office, tried to wow him, brought him to One Infinite Drive, and sat him down in Steve Jobs' office and said, I want to buy Dropbox. And I will give you Apple amount of dollars. We've got the largest market cap on the planet. We want to buy your product. And the guy went, no, I don't want to sell it. I've got a lot of money, and I want to be in charge. I want to make stuff happen. And if I sell Dropbox to you, you'll make stuff happen, and I want to do that. And so Steve Jobs, being Steve Jobs, the tenacious SOB that he is, then went to Dropbox. So he wanted to make sure that all the Dropbox employees knew that Steve goddamn Jobs wanted to buy Dropbox, and he went to the Dropbox offices and said, okay, I really want to buy your company. And the guy's like, no, I mean, I appreciate it, I'm flattered, but you can't buy us because I'm doing pretty good. So I mean, I get that, everybody has their price, but potentially Slack's, not interested. It's possible.
The box guy the Dropbox guy is just crazy, right? I mean, whatever Apple offered him is way more money than he's ever going to make in the thing. So, I guess, money's no object. And
so I think you and I both read that book by the guy, the guy with the German name about the Microsoft door. Okay, so that book had a lot of great insight. But one of the big changes that it made for me is it made me understand how people like Bill Gates think about legacy. And before the Department of Justice trial, Bill Gates had more money than he ever spent in 1,000 lifetimes. It wasn't about money for him. It was about legacy, and it was about what he could do for the world. And his legacy was going to be he was the guy that brought the PC to the world. And then the Department of Justice took all that away from him, and they made him look like this evil guy that was destroying businesses and all that, and they took his legacy away from him. And because of that, he had to come up with another legacy, and that's how we got the Gates Foundation. So LeBron James is another great example. The guy has had more fame and fortune in the NBA than 1,000 men will ever have. What's it about now? Why did he go back to Cleveland? He wants the legacy. He wants to be the guy that takes the Cleveland Cavaliers and makes them a world-class team. And it's not about money. He can make more money staying at Miami or doing whatever, but he wants the legacy. And so that's what the Dropbox guy was. He's like, I want to do stuff, and I can't do stuff here. I've got enough money. I don't need more money. That's kind of what it was.
I hope LeBron submits that legacy in this series, but it's looking a little weak. But the book was Resolve and Fortitude, Microsoft's Secret Power Broker Breaks His Silence by Joaquin Kempen.
Joaquin, yes. Yes, Resolve and Fortitude. I definitely recommend that book, absolutely. And it definitely changed a bunch of the ways that I look at things, Microsoft-y things. As for the NBA playoffs, I can't side with you because one of the Ames hometown boys, Harrison Barnes, plays for Golden State. Number 40, not only does he play, he's been a fairly effective player. And so everybody in Ames is required by law to like Golden State and the Chicago Bulls since Hoiberg went there. Yeah.
He's knocked down quite a few three-pointers in the series. So
yeah, and it's funny. So obviously I'm biased because I I didn't know the guy, but I ran into him a couple times. I sat next to him at a restaurant once. But he is another one of those players like Steph Curry, like LeBron James, that has potentially the ability to be that leader of a team. He's kind of got that mentality. That's how he was here. And so it's been fun watching him progress through his career, even for a guy who doesn't care about the NBA.
Yeah. I like the playoffs every year. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the LinkedIn thing. So another thing in the chat room folks talked about was other acquisitions that Microsoft has done. And a bunch of the other acquisitions that didn't make sense, I could find a way to make it make sense. So for instance, Skype. Skype was a weird one because they already had an IM platform and all that. But the thing that made the Skype purchase make sense was foreign money. Microsoft had a bunch of money sitting over Ireland that they didn't want to bring back to the U.S. because if they repatriate it, they lose a bunch of money to taxes. So if they buy things outside of the U.S., like Skype, which was from Lithuania, they get more bang for their buck. Skype kind of made sense. Minecraft was the same deal because I think that guy was in Sweden. And also that kind of had an Xbox tie into it. You could kind of see that. Yammer was another much maligned Microsoft purchase, and that one sort of made sense because I don't think Microsoft was buying the technology so much as they were just trying to put Yammer away so it never became a problem for them, and it worked. Yammer has not moved. I don't remember how many years ago Microsoft bought Yammer, but it has not changed much since then.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that people use Minecraft in this example because I think that is the most genius thing they've purchased in years. It's the foundation. I mean, every kid that I know, especially boys, in that little from 2 to 20, they all live and die inside of Minecraft worlds. And now they're using Minecraft in education. They're finding out ways to kind of do more and more with it. I bet HoloLens is going to show up in some Minecrafty stuff.
Absolutely.
Minecraft is a genius purchase. Anyone who thinks otherwise, this doesn't have kids.
Well, and so the other thing, so in the chat room, so Jack made a crack about remembering when Microsoft just used to copy competitors. That was pre-DOJ. And that was another thing that this book mentioned, was that Microsoft was ruthless and relentless until those Department of Justice things, and the spirit got just completely sucked out of them. They don't do that anymore. That's not really them. Go ahead.
I would say I can't believe the DOJ hasn't just repeated that glory that they had against the Google or an Apple yet. They kind of flirt with it, but they just haven't went in and crushed the spirit of a Google yet. I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's Thomas Penfield Jackson's not around anymore to do that. But yeah, I agree with you. The Minecraft thing on the surface is kind of odd, but then once you start looking into the augmented reality, virtual reality stuff, the Xbox stuff, the next generation of Microsoft Nerd stuff, then it starts to make a little more sense. I agree. But with LinkedIn, I mean, so there's a Microsoft press release on the LinkedIn acquisition that has a couple of things of note. Number one, it talks about how they're going to try to work the Microsoft Graph in with LinkedIn and get more of that social thing. The other thing that is notable about that is it's got some of the worst photoshopping I've seen at the beginning of that. But yeah, so it'll be curious to see what happens here.
Yeah, I guess the other thing, maybe they're after all the user accounts, right? Maybe they really just, right, the whole owning identity. Maybe they see LinkedIn as another potential opportunity just to own the identity space by acquiring that many more people who have done their stuff. So. Yeah,
I don't know. So we'll have to see. I've got my LinkedIn thing. We'll see. One thing that I know will not happen. One, as I look down the road, however many years. One thing that I think will not change with the Microsoft acquisition of LinkedIn is that I will still not approve Daniel Glenn's LinkedIn invitation. I think none of that has changed whatsoever. So I think that's.
I wouldn't approve his LinkedIn invitation either. I think it's a funny haircut. I think that's really the thing that kind of puts me off. He shows up.
There's so many reasons. I mean, I don't even know. I couldn't even begin to guess. But what has happened, so I've been talking about my refusal to accept Daniel Glenn's invitation for several weeks now, and a bunch of other people have added their thing in there and mentioned it. So I appreciate that. Keep them coming.
Yeah. And so Blake also reminded us that LinkedIn had purchased Lynda.com, the training site, just a little bit back. So they bought that by proxy as well.
Well, and that's curious because Microsoft has a pretty tight relationship with Pluralsight, which is obviously a Lynda competitor. So I wonder how that's all going to work out.
Well, as a guy who used to broker those type of deals for a very large company, I can tell you that there's a lot of freaked out, cussing emails flying back and forth between account reps and a certain company. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to watch down the road, and of course, we'll talk about it here, and Shane will probably talk about it when he destroys my sessions at SPTechCon and all.
Well, I think we have a Game of Thrones session now. This is what the people are demanding.
Yeah. Well, it's too bad we're almost at the end of the season. We could do a Game of Thrones podcast. I'm sure there's only 1,000 or 2,000 others out there doing that.
Yeah.
All right, so we've already talked about the bad news at the SPTechCon conference that's coming up, but I did want to talk about some good news, and that is that a couple of weeks ago, Microsoft released the beginnings of the schedule for Ignite. Ignite is in Atlanta, Georgia, September 26th through the 30th, and this is kind of the next generation of tech ed and all those kind of things. But as of today, there were over 70 SharePoint sessions in there. So if you go to myignite.microsoft.com, you can poke around in there and see what's in there. So I feel good. Shane and I think it was SPC 2014 maybe, where we thought SharePoint was dead. Like we were all out of jobs, and they were going to get up on stage and they were just going to say, SharePoint is dead. We've renamed it to Office 365 sites. Go home. You're all fired. We kind of figured, or 2012, sorry, Lori corrected me in Slack there, 2012. We all thought that was going to be the case. We thought it was dead. And now in the last, 8 months or so, Jeff Teeper's back, and we had the big event in San Francisco here a couple of months ago. The sites tile inside of Office 365 started flipping last week or a couple of weeks ago to SharePoint, and there's a ton of SharePoint sessions at Ignite. So it's a good time. Good time to be in SharePoint, yeah.
Shane's coming back to SharePoint. What more, proof do you need the world's getting better?
These poor people. I'm trying to get them excited, and then you go and drop something like that in their laps. They deserve better.
Yeah.
So as for so right now it looks like all they've released is the sessions that they're going to have. They've got a couple of SharePoint pre-day sessions and then 70 some regular sessions. I don't think they've announced who's doing what yet, but. So that's good. I mean, we've got a new lease on life. So I look forward. Some way or the other, I'm going to be at Ignite. If I have to hitchhike and sleep in a dumpster or something, I will be there. And hopefully Shane won't be on my coattails. Me doing all the hard work, getting all the sessions, keeping those relationships, maintaining all those. And in the last minute, Shane's like, I'm gonna go do that thing too.
Email will be sent shortly after the show to begin the riding of Todd's coattails to Ignite. So congratulations, everyone! I'll be at Ignite too.
Oh God!
Thanks, Todd, for bringing me.
I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. Oh, goodness sake! So speaking of me maintaining relationships and continuing to do hard work while Shane's doing whatever the hell it is that Shane does, last week I did a session for Acceleratio, the SP.Kit folks, on SharePoint upgrade, and it worked. It went pretty well. Had a couple hundred people there. Had some things like that. The recording and all that is out there. The link that I've got is the wrong link, so hopefully I'll get that fixed by the show notes. But if you missed it, if for whatever reason you had something better going on, and I can't even imagine what that would have been, but you'll be able to go and watch it again. Maybe take some notes this time, frame by frame. Just soak up all that wisdom that I did. And it was funny, before the session started, I was talking to one of the organizers, and I'm like, is this an hour or is this an hour and a half? Because in some of my notes I had an hour and some I had an hour and a half. And she's like, well, if you can make it an hour and a half, that would be great. And I'm like, oh, you don't know me very well. I'm only getting warmed up at an hour. I can make this thing an hour and a half. I can make it 4 hours if you need it to be 4 hours. So we got the full hour and a half's worth on it.
Oh, I can imagine how boring that was. An hour and a half of you droning on.
Oh, it was very exciting. There was lots of things coming up in the question window, and it was just, I felt the connection to each and every one of the 200 people that joined me that day.
Oh, I'm sorry. I fell asleep. What were you talking about?
Oh, I have not missed even a little bit of this. So when I get that link, I'll put that out there and folks can watch it.
Speaking of droning on, this show's been going on for 37 minutes. Your people were...
I'm almost done. I promise. One more thing. If you bothered to look at the notes, you would know how close we are to close to being finished.
Pretty. Here for the pretty.
Yeah. The last thing that I wanted to mention was last week or the week before I linked some of the documentation Microsoft has on SharePoint 2016 and all that. One of the things that I keep getting asked for, and it's happened a couple of times over the last week, is what things exist in on-prem SharePoint and what things only exist in Office 365. And I found that document. It's on TechNet, and I've got a link in the chat room, and I'll put a link in the blog post. But this particular document lets you compare SharePoint 2013 server, SharePoint 2016 server, and then on-prem and online. And that way you can kind of see, because for customers, at Rackspace now we're selling Office 365, and we've got people that are saying, well, why would I want to go to Office 365? Is there something I can't do on-prem, or why should I stay on-prem? Why shouldn't I go? So this document's a good one for making those decisions. So I want to put that one out there. Okay, so now, since I've been told by Shane that I'm going too long, see, Shane's an hour ahead, and I'm cutting into his Waffle House time right now.
Yeah.
Monday night is the young family at Waffle House night, and so he's doing that. I told him we have a similar thing here at the Klindt house. My wife is out of town tonight, so I'm cooking and all that for the kids, and so we're having a boxed mac and cheese and microwave chicken nuggets night. Very similar to Waffle House.
Can't you cook yourself kids something nicer than boxed macaroni and nuggets?
Well, no. In all honesty, no, I can't. But the important thing, though, is if I go up there and I'm like, hey, kids, what do you guys want for supper? And it could be whatever. I could cook whatever. They're all going to be, we want mac and cheese and chicken nuggets. So, if that's what keeps them from screaming around and driving me crazy, I'll do it for them.
Fair enough.
All right, so let's do some self-promotion while we're out here. Next week, I'm going to be doing the Unity Connect online conference, and I'm going to be doing my much-beloved Office 365 and PowerShell session. I did that one internally last week for some groups here at Rackspace, added some SharePoint, or not SharePoint, there was already SharePoint online bits in there, added some Exchange online bits in there, and I don't know that it was possible before, but I think that session's actually gotten better. And so I'll be doing that one at Unity Connect Online. My session is, I forget when that is. Go to Unity Connect Online, unityconnect.com/online to find out about that. And then I'm doing a panel on Wednesday morning also, I think. So join me for that. It's all free. Sign up for that. You get your money's worth out of that one. The week after that, so in 2 sad weeks, I will be doing SPTechCon in Boston. The funny thing about that was I'm flying Monday afternoon, and I was going to have Shane to fill in for me, and God, he ruined that too. Ugh.
That's the whole reason I'm going. I didn't want to host the show again. I was like, the hell are those people? So I just go to the event, so I can't host.
Yep, to hell with that guy, to hell with that. For sure to yeah. So I don't know what we're going to do on Monday because Lori's in the air, I'm in the air, Shane, who knows what we're going to do. We'll keep you updated. But that's sptechcon.com, June 27th through the 30th. I get in there Monday afternoon sometime. All of my sessions are on Wednesday. Lightning Talks are on Tuesday. I fly out Thursday. And then I fly directly to Chicago where I get to see Guns N' Roses in concert. So Shane, as far as I know, has not found a way to spoil that for me, but there's still a couple of weeks. He'll do something.
We'll start working on your mullet.
I'm already growing my facial hair out.
No, that's not a thing for the 80s rockers. It's the current rockers. You gotta go backwards.
Doggone it. And then it's a way, so at SPTechCon, I'll be doing the SharePoint Online and PowerShell session and configuring Active Directory replication with Azure AD. So that's a great one. That one just keeps getting better and better. I've got a couple new things I'm going to break out in this one that I haven't talked about before. So make sure you come to that one. And then in October 27th and 28th, I'm going to be at Stockholm, Sweden, for the SharePoint Exchange Forum, which is now partnered up with IT Unity. So it's another Unity Connect Dealio thinger. And I'm going to be out there. We haven't decided for sure what I'm going to be talking about. I'm just glad to be there, doing whatever. That's Joran throws on a good show. And I've got a couple of other things in the pipeline that until I get confirmed, I don't want to announce yet. But hopefully we've got a couple more things to announce. So thanks to Shane for coming in, ruining my podcast, ruining SPTechCon, all of that. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, so we'll have more about that. Oh, but he did get the memo, though, to wear the black shirt today, so he didn't screw that part up.
With a V, with a deep V, showing a little chest there.
Mm-hmm. I can't do that. I have nothing to, it's, nah.
Look, it's an ink pen.
It's Sharpie. So thanks, everybody. Chat room, stick around. I'll be there for a while. Everybody else, I will see you guys next week. Thanks.